Everyone you've ever trusted has studied you. They watched how you react when you're angry. They noted what makes you desperate. They catalogued your weaknesses like a general maps enemy territory. And you? You thought it was friendship. That's not paranoia. That's the first truth most men never survive learning. The world doesn't run on kindness. It runs on leverage. It runs on information. It runs on who understands human nature better and who gets eaten alive because they refused to. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince as a warning. He wrote it as a blueprint. And for 500 years, the powerful have read it in private, while telling the weak it's immoral. Think about that. The most dangerous book ever written was called Evil by the very men who used it to rule empires. That's not coincidence, that's control. You're here because something in you already knew this. Something in you felt the gap between how the world presents itself and how it actually operates. Today, that gap closes. What you're about to learn isn't psychology. It isn't philosophy. It's the language of power, spoken raw for the first time without apology. If that disturbs you, good. Comfort is the enemy of transformation. Drop a comment right now. Just 2 words. Dark aura. Let me know you're ready, because what comes next, most people aren't. Part 2. Harsh reality of the world. Here's what no one told you. The world is not fair. It was never designed to be. Hierarchy is not a social construct. It's nature's oldest law. Lions don't apologize for eating, and powerful men don't apologize for winning. Every room you walk into has a hidden structure. Who leads? Who follows? Who gets used? Most men never see it. They just feel it when they lose. People don't respect goodness. They respect strength. They don't follow kindness. They follow certainty. Weakness is not forgiven in this world. It is exploited. Quietly, professionally, with a smile. The man who shows desperation gets manipulated. The man who reveals his emotions becomes a target. The man who trusts without strategy gets consumed. This isn't cynicism. This is the operating system of human civilization, running since the first empire rose and fell. You can reject this truth. Millions do. And millions stay powerless, confused, wondering why life keeps happening to them. Or you accept it, and you begin to move differently. Colder, sharper, untouchable. Part 3. Why most people stay weak. Most men were trained to be manageable, not educated, managed. They were taught to seek approval, to explain themselves, to apologize for taking up space. And that programming runs deep. They mistake submission for humility. They mistake silence for weakness. They mistake boundaries for arrogance. So they shrink, constantly, automatically, without even noticing. They overshare with people who don't deserve the information. They react emotionally in moments that demand cold logic. They chase validation from people who secretly disrespect them. And here's the darkest part. Weak men don't stay weak because they lack intelligence. They stay weak because weakness feels safe. Invisibility feels like protection. People-pleasing feels like peace. Mediocrity feels like stability. Until it doesn't. Until life strips it all away and leaves them with nothing but regret and excuses. Machiavelli said it plainly. It is better to be feared than loved. If you cannot be both. Most men chose to be loved and got neither. Comment right now, I choose power. Because that choice, made consciously, is where everything changes. The weak man reacts, the powerful man decides. Part 4. Mindset of the untouchable man. The untouchable man is not the loudest in the room. He's not the most aggressive, not the most charming, not the one performing for attention. He's the one you can't quite read. And that invisibility, that deliberate mystery, is his first weapon. Understand this, most men broadcast everything. Their insecurities leak through their jokes. Their desperation leaks through their urgency. Their fear leaks through their anger. They are open books in a world full of readers who mean them harm. The untouchable man is a closed door. He has opinions he never voices, plans he never announces, wounds he never displays. Not because he's emotionless, but because he understands that information is ammunition, and handing ammunition to the wrong person is how wars are lost before they begin. His mindset operates on three unbreakable principles. First, he expects nothing from people. Not coldly, strategically. Expectation creates dependency. Dependency creates vulnerability. The man who needs nothing from you cannot be manipulated by you. Second, he observes more than he speaks. Every conversation is data. Every reaction is a revelation. While others talk to be heard, he listens to understand. And understanding is power. Third, he plays a longer game than anyone in the room. He doesn't react to provocations. He files them. He doesn't chase opportunities desperately. He positions himself so opportunities become inevitable. This is Machiavellian thinking at its purest. Not evil, not cruel, simply superior. The untouchable man doesn't fight every battle. He wins wars most people don't even know are being fought. Ask yourself honestly, are you broadcasting or are you watching? Because right now, someone in your life is watching you. Part 5. Power of silence. Silence is the most misunderstood weapon in existence. Most men fear. They rush to fill it. They panic in it. They mistake it for weakness, for emptiness, for defeat. That panic, that desperate need to speak, is exactly what powerful men exploit. Learn this once and never forget it. The man who speaks first in tension loses. Every time. When you feel the pressure to explain yourself, stay silent. When someone challenges you and waits for your reaction, stay silent. When the room goes cold and every instinct tells you to break the discomfort, stay silent. Because here's what silence actually communicates. It says, I am not controlled by your discomfort. It says, I do not require your approval to feel certain. It says, I am operating on a level you haven't reached yet. No words carry that weight. Only silence does. Machiavelli understood that the prince who spoke carefully ruled longer than the prince who spoke freely. Words are contracts. Every unnecessary word is a liability. Every overshared thought is a map to your interior, handed freely to people who will use it against you. The ancient Stoics knew this too. Marcus Aurelius didn't build an empire through speeches. He built it through disciplined restraint, through calculated action, through knowing when not to move. Silence is also a psychological mirror. When you go quiet, people project onto you. They fill the void with their own fears, their own guilt, their own assumptions. You reveal nothing. They reveal everything. Watch what a man says when you stop responding. Watch how quickly composure dissolves when silence is held long enough. People expose themselves completely if you're patient enough to wait. This is not manipulation. This is reading. This is understanding human psychology at a level most people never access because they're too busy talking. There is also power in the silence of your actions. Don't announce your moves. Don't explain your ambitions. Don't telegraph your next step. The lion doesn't announce the hunt. Move without narration. Execute without permission. Arrive at destinations people didn't even know you were heading toward. Drop a comment right now, I move in silence. Because that phrase isn't just words, it's a declaration of a new operating mode. Silence isn't absence. Silence is presence, distilled to its most powerful form. The man who masters silence, masters the room, masters the relationship, masters himself, and self-mastery is where all real power begins. Part 6. Emotional detachment. Emotions are not your enemy. But uncontrolled emotions are the most reliable weapon your enemies have against you. Read that again. Every time you've lost control, someone won. Every time you reacted in anger, someone collected information. Every time you broke under pressure, someone filed it away, quietly, for later use. Your emotional reactions are a blueprint, and most men hand that blueprint to the world freely, daily, without a second thought. That ends today. Emotional detachment is not numbness. It is not coldness for the sake of coldness. It is not the dead-eyed emptiness of a man who has given up feeling. It is discipline over reaction. It is the gap deliberately widened between what happens to you and how you respond. That gap is where power lives. The Stoics called it the dichotomy of control. Machiavelli called it vert, the capacity to bend circumstance through sheer force of will rather than being broken by it. Both were describing the same thing. The man who cannot be emotionally destabilized, cannot be defeated. Think about the people in your life who have power over you. Not physical power, psychological power. How do they have it? Because they know how to make you feel something. Guilt, jealousy, insecurity, urgency, fear. Emotion is the leash, and as long as you react, they hold it. Detachment cuts the leash. Here is how it works in practice. When someone insults you, your ego wants to retaliate. The detached man observes the insult like a scientist observing data. Why did they say that? What do they want from my reaction? What does this reveal about them? Suddenly, the insult becomes information, and information is always more valuable than retaliation. When someone betrays you, the emotional man collapses or explodes. The detached man recalibrates. He adjusts his model of that person. Without drama, without confrontation, without warning. He simply repositions, quietly, permanently. When pressure is applied, deadlines, ultimatums, provocations, the emotional man panics and makes mistakes. The detached man slows down internally while the world speeds up around him. He finds clarity in chaos because he is not inside the storm. He is watching it. This is what makes certain men appear almost supernatural in high-stakes situations. They're not fearless. They feel everything. But they have built a wall, brick by brick, through deliberate practice between feeling and reacting. And behind that wall they process. They calculate. They choose their response with surgical precision. That is not weakness disguised as calm. That is the most dangerous kind of strength. Now understand the offensive dimension of this. A detached man doesn't just protect himself emotionally. He reads others with devastating accuracy. Because when you are no longer consumed by your own emotional noise, you can hear everyone else's. You notice the micro-expression that flashes across a face before the mask resets. You catch the slight hesitation before the lie. You feel the shift in energy when someone enters a room carrying hidden agenda. Most people are broadcasting at full volume. Rage, insecurity, lust for validation, fear of irrelevance. The detached man receives every signal. He decodes every transmission. And he uses that intelligence, not cruelly, but strategically. Comment right now, I am unshakable. Because that is what you are building. Not arrogance, not indifference. An architecture of self so solid, so deliberate, so internally fortified, that no person, no provocation, no circumstance can reach the core of you without your permission. Machiavelli wrote that the greatest fortress a prince can possess is the loyalty of his people. But before a man can command loyalty, he must first command himself. Detachment is not the destination, it is the foundation. And on that foundation, everything else gets built. Part 7. Psychological dominance. Psychological dominance is not about intimidation. It is not about aggression. It is not about volume or size or the sharpness of your words. Those are the tools of weak men, pretending to be powerful. Real psychological dominance is quieter than that, colder than that, and infinitely more effective than that. It is the ability to walk into any environment, any room, any negotiation, any relationship, and silently restructure the hierarchy in your favor. Without a single confrontation, without a single declaration, just presence, positioning, precision. Understand how dominance actually operates. Every human interaction is a subtle negotiation of status. Every conversation has an invisible current running beneath the words. Who leads? Who follows? Who frames reality? Who accepts it? Most people are unconsciously fighting this battle constantly, laughing too loudly to seem confident, agreeing too quickly to avoid conflict, talking too much to fill the silence they're afraid of. The psychologically dominant man is not fighting this battle. He has already won it, before he opened his mouth. Here is the architecture of psychological dominance. Frame control. The frame is the context through which an interaction is interpreted. Whoever sets the frame controls the conversation. Whoever accepts someone else's frame loses. When someone tries to put you on the defensive, they are attempting a frame takeover. They want you to play on their terms, on their terrain, by their rules. The dominant man never accepts a frame he didn't choose. He doesn't get defensive, because defense implies the accusation has weight. He doesn't over-explain, because explanation implies he requires their understanding. He simply reframes. Calmly. Completely. Without permission, he shifts the terrain so subtly that the other person doesn't even realize the ground has moved beneath them. This is Machiavellian statecraft applied to daily human interaction. The prince who controls the narrative controls the kingdom. Scarcity of access. Dominance is also built through availability. The man who is always accessible is never fully valued. The man who can be reached at any moment holds no mystery. Mystery is power. Scarcity is power. When you become selective about your time, your attention, your energy, people begin to compete for it. And competition creates perceived value. You didn't change. The perception changed. And in human psychology, perception is reality. Behavioral consistency. Here is something most men miss entirely. Dominance is not established in dramatic moments. It is established in the accumulation of small, consistent behaviors over time. The man who never raises his voice, but never backs down. The man who is always composed, but always follows through. The man who promises little, but delivers completely. That consistency builds a reputation that precedes him. And a powerful reputation is a force multiplier. People begin to self-regulate around him. They choose their words more carefully. They think twice before testing him. Not from fear, from respect. Respect born not from a single powerful moment, but from the pattern of a powerful life. The art of strategic provocation. The dominant man also understands that sometimes silence and composure are not enough. Sometimes the most powerful move is a precisely placed question, not an accusation, a question. Why do you think you said that? What were you hoping would happen? Is that actually what you believe? Surgical, calm, devastating. These questions do not attack, they excavate. They force the other person to confront themselves. And in that confrontation, they often unravel. While you remain unmoved, unreadable, in control, reading the room. Finally, dominance requires vision others don't have. While most people are absorbed in the surface of what is being said, the dominant man is watching what is not being said. The shifted eye contact, the crossed arms, the forced laughter. the over-explained excuse. Human beings leak truth constantly, through body language, through vocal tone, through behavioral patterns. The man who can read these signals accurately holds intelligence that no one gave him, intelligence they don't even know they surrendered. Drop a comment, "I see everything." Because that is the mark of the psychologically dominant man, not that he controls everything, but that he sees everything. And in a world where most people are sleepwalking through their own manipulation, vision is the rarest and most ruthless power of all. Psychological dominance is not a personality trait. It is a skill, built deliberately, refined relentlessly, applied strategically, and once developed, it changes every room you walk into, every relationship you enter, every negotiation you sit down for, because the man who understands human nature at this level doesn't just participate in the game, he designs it. Part 8. Strategic patience. Patience is not waiting. Most men confuse the two. They think patience is passive. They think it means sitting still, hoping, enduring, while the world moves without them. That is not patience. That is paralysis dressed in virtue. Strategic patience is something else entirely. It is the deliberate, calculated decision to not move until the moment of movement guarantees maximum impact. It is the hunter who has been still for hours, not because he cannot act, but because he understands that a premature strike returns nothing, and a precise strike returns everything. This is one of the most powerful and least practiced disciplines in the architecture of power, and it is the one that separates men who win occasionally from men who win consistently. Understand why most men fail at patience. The modern world is engineered against it. Every notification, every scroll, every dopamine hit from instant gratification has rewired the average man to need results immediately. He starts a business and wants profit in 30 days. He begins a transformation and wants recognition in a week. He plants a seed and digs it up to check if it's growing. And in that impatience, he destroys the very thing he was trying to build. Machiavelli observed that fortune favors the bold, but Machiavelli also understood that boldness without timing is recklessness, and recklessness is how empires fall. The prince who moves too early reveals his hand. The prince who moves too late loses the moment. The prince who moves at precisely the right moment appears almost supernatural to those watching. They call it luck. It is not luck. It is preparation meeting precision meeting patience. Here is how strategic patience operates in practice. In conflict, when someone wrongs you, every instinct screams for immediate retaliation. The ego demands it. Pride demands it. The emotional man obeys. And in obeying, he loses, because retaliation in the heat of emotion is predictable, and predictable men are controllable men. The strategically patient man does something far more unsettling. He does nothing. He absorbs the event. He files it. He continues operating normally, while internally repositioning, recalculating, waiting. His response, when it comes, is not born of anger. It is born of strategy, and a response born of strategy lands at the moment of maximum consequence, not when he is ready emotionally, when the situation is ready strategically. That distinction is everything. In ambition, strategic patience in the pursuit of power means understanding that position matters more than speed. The man who climbs fast and visibly accumulates enemies at the same rate he accumulates success. He becomes a target. He becomes the man others want to pull down. The man who builds quietly, steadily, beneath the radar, arrives at power without the resistance. Machiavelli called this the wisdom of the fox. Move through the landscape without disturbing it, until you are too established to be threatened. Build your skills in silence. Build your resources in silence. Build your network in silence. And when you finally emerge fully formed. Emerge as something the world has to reckon with, not something it can dismiss or dismantle. In relationships, strategic patience also governs how the powerful man approaches people. He does not reveal his full assessment of someone immediately. He watches across multiple contexts, multiple pressures, multiple moments, because people perform in the short term. Character reveals itself over time. The man who trusts too quickly gets betrayed consistently. The man who withholds full trust until it is earned through pattern builds a circle that is small, solid, and uncompromised. He is not suspicious of everyone. He is simply unhurried in his conclusions, and unhurried conclusions are almost always more accurate. In self-development, perhaps the deepest application of strategic patience is in the development of the self. The most dangerous version of you is not who you are today. It is who you become through years of disciplined, unglamorous, unrewarded work that no one sees, no one applauds, no one validates. The version of you forged in that silence, that obscurity, that patient accumulation of capability, is the version that becomes truly untouchable, because that man has something most men never develop. Depth, not surface confidence, not borrowed bravado. Earned, tested, unshakable depth that holds when everything around him is collapsing. Most men want the result without the refinement. They want the throne without the campaign. They want the respect without the decades of conduct that commands it. And so, they remain, forever at the level of men who want power, never ascending to the level of men who embody it. Strategic patience is the bridge between those two levels. It is not glamorous. It is not fast. It will not trend. It will not go viral. But it will work. With the cold, merciless reliability of natural law. Comment right now, "I am built for the long game," because that statement is not motivation. It is a recalibration, a decision to stop operating on the timeline of your emotions and start operating on the timeline of your strategy. The world respects the man who cannot be rushed, who cannot be pressured into premature action, who moves only when movement serves the larger design. That man is not passive. He is inevitable. And inevitability is the most terrifying and magnetic quality a man can possess. Part 9. Transformation into power. Transformation is not an event. Most men wait for it like it's coming from outside them. A moment, a revelation, a breaking point that rewires everything overnight. They wait for the version of themselves that doesn't need to be built. Because building is hard, and waiting is comfortable. That version never arrives. Transformation is not a moment. It is a decision, made daily, in private, without applause, without witnesses, to become something the world has not yet seen from you. And it begins not with action. It begins with identity. Here is the truth that changes everything. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. Every system you build, every discipline you attempt, every strategy you deploy, will collapse under pressure if the man operating those systems hasn't changed at the core. You can learn every psychological trick in existence. You can memorize Machiavelli word for word. You can study power, dominance, silence, strategy, and still lose if the identity running beneath all of it still belongs to the man you are trying to leave behind. Transformation means killing that man, not dramatically, not with ceremony, quietly, methodically, completely. You identify the beliefs he carried that kept him manageable. I need people to like me. I'm not the kind of person who wins. Power is for other people. and you replace them, not with affirmations, but with evidence. Deliberate, accumulated, irrefutable evidence that you are no longer that man. This is how transformation actually works. The purge. The first stage of transformation is elimination. Before you add anything, you remove what is rotting the foundation. Relationships that extract more than they contribute. Habits that numb you instead of sharpen you. Environments that reward your weakness instead of confronting it. Most men try to build power while still surrounded by everything that produces powerlessness. They want discipline while keeping every distraction. They want strength while maintaining every comfort that made them soft. It doesn't work. The sculptor doesn't add to the marble. He removes everything that isn't the statue. Identify what is not the statue. Remove it without sentiment. Remove it without lengthy explanation. Remove it without the need for anyone's understanding or permission. That act alone, that ruthless curation of your environment, is one of the most powerful things a man can do. The reconstruction. Once you have cleared the ground, you build deliberately. And you build in sequence, not randomly. First, the body. Not for vanity, for discipline. The man who can dominate his physical comfort, who can push past resistance, past pain, past the screaming desire to stop, has proven to himself that he controls the instrument, and the man who controls his instrument controls his performance in every arena. Second, the mind. You feed it differently now, not with content designed to entertain and pacify, but with knowledge that sharpens, challenges, and expands your model of reality. Philosophy. History, strategy, psychology. The great men who came before you left maps. Read the maps. Third, the emotional architecture. You build the internal structures we discussed: detachment, patience, silence, not as concepts but as practiced daily realities. You manufacture pressure in training so that real pressure finds you already forged. You practice composure in small moments so that large moments don't shatter you. You rehearse restraint until restraint becomes your natural frequency. The recalibration of standards. Transformation also demands that you raise what you accept, from yourself and from the world around you. The transformed man does not tolerate mediocrity in his own conduct. He holds himself to a standard that has nothing to do with what others expect of him, and everything to do with what he knows he is capable of. He is his own harshest judge, his own most demanding commander. And paradoxically, this internal severity produces external freedom. Because the man who answers to his own uncompromising standard needs no external validation. He already knows when he has performed at the level he demands, and he already knows when he hasn't, without anyone needing to tell him. That self-sufficiency is liberation. The shift in how the world treats you. Here is something no one warns you about. When you genuinely transform, when the change is real and deep and visible in your conduct, the world responds differently. Not always warmly. Some people will become uncomfortable around you. Friends who benefited from your weakness will distance themselves. People who relied on your need for approval will find you suddenly unreachable. Do not mistake this discomfort for failure. It is confirmation. The old version of you served certain people's purposes. The new version disrupts those purposes. Their discomfort is the clearest possible signal that you are no longer who they needed you to be. Good, you were never supposed to be convenient for people who didn't have your best interests at heart. New levels of self produce new quality of people, opportunities, and environments. Not immediately, not loudly, but inevitably, with the quiet precision of a man who has done the work and trusts the process. The point of no return. There comes a moment in genuine transformation and you will know it when it arrives, where returning to who you were becomes genuinely impossible. Not difficult, impossible. Because you have seen too clearly. You have felt the difference between living by default and living by design. You have experienced the compound effect of disciplined, strategic, patient self-construction, and nothing before it can compete. That moment is not the end of the journey. It is the confirmation that the journey is real. And from that point forward, every day becomes a refinement. Every experience becomes data. Every challenge becomes a laboratory for the application of everything you have built. You stop reacting to life. You start engineering it. Not from arrogance, from mastery. The difference between those two things is everything. Comment right now, I am the architect. Because that is precisely what you are becoming. Not a passenger in your own existence. Not a variable in someone else's equation. The architect. The man who looks at the raw material of his life. His time, his mind, his energy, his relationships, his environment, and builds something deliberate. Something powerful, something that reflects not who the world told him to be, but who he chose through blood and discipline and sacrifice to become. That man is not born. He is built, and the building has already begun.